morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ and welcome to your detailed forecast update for the 15th of December 2024. We have a lot to get through once again today. Heavy rainfall expected across the southeast and central coast of Queensland. A tropical low forecast to bring heavy to locally intense rainfall across the far north of Queensland. It's going to heat up across New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia and the Northern Territory as well. We've also got a very steamy Christmas on the forecast as well for parts of the west. And we'll talk about the general tropical weather forecast as well across the Northern Territory. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing, but today we're going to get stuck straight into things over into the southeast and central coast of Queensland, where you can see a weak to probably a moderately strong low pressure area is beginning to spin up offshore from Fraser Island now outside of Hervey Bay. The system here is bringing some strong winds as well to the Queensland coastline. You can see 50 or 60 km/h winds now at Double Island Point outside of Fraser Island, and winds sustained between 30 and 50 km/h right along the Sunshine Coast and into the down towards the Brisbane and the Gold Coast as well. It is starting to get a little bit blustery down there. Now, this low pressure system is only going to increase in intensity throughout the course of today, and as such, the rainfall rates are also going to increase across parts of the southeast and into the central coast as well. So let's break those down for you right now. Throughout the course of today, as this low pressure system wraps itself up, you can see that rainfall gets driven ashore in a pretty tight band for locations north of Brisbane, especially between Maroochydore up to about Bundaberg. There is going to be a very nice band of rainfall moving ashore. Along the east coast of Fraser Island, accumulations over the next 24 hours could be up towards 80 millimetres. Further inland, out towards Gympie and Mount Perry, the rainfall accumulations will likely drop off a cliff, and along the coastline, we'll likely see accumulations between sort of 30 and 80 millimetres. It is a pretty wide scope of uncertainty, but it really does depend on what showers go through what areas. If we do get a heavy band of showers over, say, Noosa or Hervey Bay, that's really going to swing the scales in favour of those locations in terms of the heaviest falls. Further up the coast, as you get up towards Bundaberg, Agnes Water and Gladstone, the rainfall is going to be a little bit more hit and miss throughout the course of today, but it will likely pick up in tomorrow morning, and I'll get to that in just a few moments. The remainder of the next couple of days to the Sunshine Coast, it's pretty hit and miss. The further north you go, the wetter it is going to be, but it definitely looks like there's going to be some good rainfall moving ashore throughout the course of tomorrow, especially along the southeast corner of Queensland, around between the Gold Coast and the Brisbane coastline area. We're expecting some very significant rainfall accumulations to be funneled ashore tomorrow afternoon. That is from that onshore flow that's just going to be driving through those showers, which could be very heavy at times, and you can see between the other forecast models there is plenty of rainfall that is on the cards for this southeastern corner of Queensland. So again, tomorrow would not be surprised if accumulations were once again about 50 or 60 millimetres on the Gold Coast, and then further inland accumulations up towards 100 millimetres are possible. So it really does look like they're moving into a pretty wet phase, at least over the coming couple of days. Tuesday just dominated by showers and the odd storm, especially as you head further inland. There's going to be plenty of thunderstorm activity to talk about, just beautiful conditions for showers and storms to fire up along the southeastern corner of Queensland and even into the northeastern corner of New South Wales. There is a severe thunderstorm risk for both Tuesday and Wednesday into New South Wales as well. I will get to that in just a few moments. In terms of the rainfall, though, it just looks like it's going to be that steady showery crap being streamed ashore throughout Tuesday and even in towards Wednesday as well. The showers do continue there, and that severe thunderstorm risk is a little bit more elevated on Wednesday as well. So the showers and storms certainly going to result in some decent rainfall accumulations here between Tuesday and Wednesday, depending on what showers come through. A lot of places could get between 20 and 40 millimetres of rainfall, and even out and towards the mountainous areas adjacent to the Gold Coast Scenic Rim and out towards Boonah and Beaudesert, the rainfall accumulations could be in excess of 50 millimetres on multiple days throughout the course of next week. The rainfall contracts further north throughout Thursday, and you can see it's pretty much only into the central coast by Thursday afternoon, leaving the southeast of Queensland with some very healthy rainfall accumulations over the next 4 days. You can see it here on this forecast here, which is a dramatic underestimation, at least in some places, if I might add, but some really good rainfall accumulations do look possible for the southeastern corner of Queensland. So we're focusing right now on Bundaberg and further south. The Bundaberg area expecting at least 150, potentially a little bit more in terms of rainfall, between 130 and 180 millimetres, I would say. It's just going to be really steady rainfall by the looks of things, and considering the amount of days where significant shower bands are expected to move ashore, it's highly unlikely that these places miss out on rainfall. Hervey Bay is kind of the last place where we can comfortably say that they're expecting 100 millimetres plus over the next 4 days. There is going to be some really good rainfall for Hervey Bay and also for Fraser Island. Like I said, the east coast of Fraser Island expecting some really significant rainfall accumulation. So if you are four-wheel driving in that area throughout the course of next week, I would recommend just making sure you are prepared for significantly or much boggier tracks, and in the event of flooding, make sure you are in a safe spot. Down along the Sunshine Coast, accumulations pretty consistent between sort of the 90 and 120 millimetre mark. You can see around Noosa about 115 to 120 120 millimetres, Maroochydore about 100 millimetres. Further inland into some of the more mountainous areas directly adjacent to the coastline, the rainfall could be a little bit heavier, but like I said, those good falls stopping at about Gympie and Mount Perry. They don't really penetrate too much further inland to that. And then into the immediate southeastern corner of Queensland, Brisbane expecting about 80 millimetres. I think that's a very conservative number, especially considering that they picked up about 70 millimetres overnight, or some locations did. I reckon accumulations around Brisbane could amount to about 120 millimetres over the next 4 days, depending on what showers come through. The Gold Coast, especially with the rainfall that's coming through tomorrow night around sort of the Gold Coast, especially into the Coomera area, I think 60 or 70 millimetres, which is the number that the forecast is suggesting right now. I think that is a little bit light on as well. Up to about 120 millimetres is possible, but again, keep in mind the rainfall down on the Gold Coast is going to ease off after Wednesday evening, so they're not going to get the full 4-day forecast that I've just shown here in terms of the rainfall. Into the southeastern corner of New South Wales, which leads us nicely on into the thunderstorm part of this forecast update. You can see a couple of severe thunderstorms expected to fire up on Tuesday, especially further inland out towards Moree and Lightning Ridge. There could be some good storms out there with some heavy rainfall, damaging winds, isolated spots of medium to large-sized hailstones, just being fed by the onshore flow that's coming in from the Coral Sea and the Pacific Ocean and meeting with those very warm temperatures into the interior parts of New South Wales. So the conditions on Tuesday, they're not going to be great, but they will still be there for severe thunderstorms to fire up, and they could also extend into the southeastern corner of Queensland up towards St George and Thallon. Again, the risk of severe thunderstorms into the immediate southeastern corner of Queensland, at least on Tuesday night, doesn't look too high, that's for sure. And then Wednesday, just coupled with that high humidity, beautiful setup as well for these thunderstorms into the northeast of New South Wales. You can see outside of Lismore some great storms expected to fire up on Wednesday afternoon, and then further up around Kingaroy, a couple of good thunderstorms also expected by around 3 or 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Outside of Texas and Inglewood, some good thunderstorms as well expected to fire up along the border of New South Wales and Queensland. They could head further inland out towards Goondiwindi and then up towards Suet and Mount St George rather. Whether they head far enough inland out towards Roma and Yuliba, that's a little bit of a hot take at this time. I don't really think they're going to get that far inland. And the chance of severe thunderstorms, I mean, it is still there, but it isn't exactly an elevated chance at this time, and it's not really reciprocated between the other forecast models. It looks like some really good rainfall is on the cards Wednesday night into the southeastern corner of Queensland regardless. We could also see some severe thunderstorms into the Brisbane metro area just with heavy rainfall coming through, but they're not going to be thunderstorm associated, so a bit of a stretch to include that in this forecast here. But in terms of the setup for these thunderstorms, you can see Cape values around sort of that 1500 to 2000 mark, which is about standard for a severe thunderstorm outbreak. It's nothing really earth-shattering, so again, it's not perfect for these severe thunderstorms, but it's also not the worst thing in the world, so we will keep a very close eye on things, and I think we'll have a lot to say on the Wednesday morning forecast update, especially into the southeast of Queensland. That does look like a highly variable forecast this time, and certainly something that could change dramatically in the favour of severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall over the coming couple of days. That's the southeast of Queensland, the northeast of New South Wales down. Let's head into the hot seat right now, and that is the central coast of Queensland. There is a lot of rainfall on the cards. Accumulations could be in excess of 250 millimetres over the next couple of days, and that's going to be tied to this low-pressure system that we talked about in the start of the forecast update, which is slowly going to be wrapping itself up and pulling itself together over the next 24 to 36 hours. Now, this low-pressure system will slowly intensify throughout the course of Monday. Keep in mind, this is not by any chance related to tropical lows or tropical cyclones. This is just a low-pressure system attached to the monsoon trough that is going to be intensifying in a cyclonic fashion offshore from the Queensland coast. You can see it here through Monday night into Tuesday morning. The rainfall starts to pipe up around Bundaberg and Agnes Water. They would, of course, have had some showers throughout the course of tonight into early tomorrow morning just from this system kind of churning in a little bit of rainfall, and again to the 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I would not be surprised if accumulations were in excess of 100 millimetres around the Bundaberg and Fraser Island area. Again, the real rainfall does pipe up on Monday afternoon and evening. You can see for locations between Bundaberg and Rockhampton, including Agnes Water, just a steady stream of moderate rainfall is expected to come through, and I imagine this is making a lot of people really happy right now hearing this. But accumulations to the 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning should be well in excess of 35 or 40 millimetres for some of these locations, especially along the coastline. Agnes Water and Gladstone look like they are in the hot seat to get at least 50 or 60 millimetres on Monday night or into Tuesday morning. Again, that is making a lot of people really happy. I can already feel it here. You can see the thunderstorms take over on Tuesday afternoon. There isn't an awful lot of rainfall expected from about Tuesday afternoon onwards, but the steady light to moderate rainfall will continue through Tuesday afternoon and evening for locations locations between Rockhampton and Bundaberg. Thunderstorms expected to fire up north of Mackay and around Bowen area, and even as far north as about Townsville as well, but we will get to the Townsville forecast in just a few moments when we talk about the far north of Queensland. So there's going to be plenty of rainfall to go around Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, plenty of thunderstorms firing up once again. That onshore flow intensifies again for the central coast of Queensland, with more moderate to locally heavy falls expected around Ogmore, extending right down through Rockhampton, Gladstone, Agnes Water and Bundaberg, even down towards Hervey Bay and the Sunshine Coast. Some moderate to heavy falls are expected there. In short, if we zoom out here to the wider Queensland picture, so much rainfall is expected across so many locations. I know it doesn't look especially heavy on this forecast here, but pretty much right down the Queensland coastline south of Mackay, there's going to be plenty of rainfall to go around on Wednesday afternoon and evening. And once again, that's going to be another 30 or 40 millimetres to add to the gauges for the week, and very quickly this rainfall accumulations stuff is really starting to amount. Another low pressure system is expected to spin itself up associated with a tropical low, which we will talk about in just a few moments, and that's going to continue the rainfall for the central parts of Queensland's coastline into the far north around sort of the Mackay area, and basically for locations north of Ogmore. Again, we will talk about this in just a few moments. From about Thursday onwards, the rainfall there is going to continue heavily at times throughout Thursday, Friday and even in towards Saturday morning, but then clearing out for the weekend. And that means that over this week of rainfall, plenty of rainfall is expected across the central Queensland area. So this is a 5-day forecast run in terms of rainfall from now until Friday evening. You can see rainfall accumulations already very blue along the central Queensland coast, which is very good to see. Bundaberg expecting, like we said, about 130 or 140 millimetres, but Agnes Water stealing the show here with accumulations up to 170 millimetres, and I think that might be a little bit conservative. For Agnes Water and Gladstone, I know there's a lot of viewers watching in from here that are currently experiencing some of the worst drought conditions that they've had in the last 5 years, so rainfall accumulations there should be at least 100 millimetres and up to about 200 millimetres. Again, I know that's a wide scope of uncertainty, but that's still really good rainfall, and if I was to put an exact number on it, I'd be saying around sort of the 140 to 150 millimetre mark, so it does look like it is going to be pretty good there, but they could get substantially more rainfall than this. We just want to see how this rainfall plays out over the next 24 hours. I'll have more detail on this in tomorrow morning's forecast update. Rockhampton expecting about a healthy 100 millimetres, out towards Yeppoon about 140, maybe 150 millimetres, with the heaviest falls in excess of 200 millimetres outside of Ogmore and on the the coastline here outside of the Whitsundays, that's what it is. I was trying to find the region of the regional name for this part of Queensland. And then outside of Sarina, West Hill and St. Lawrence, the rainfall accumulations should be in excess of about 100 millimetres there. Mackay also expecting up to about 100 millimetres, and then rainfall around Bowen, Eyre and Hamilton Island should be around sort of that 60 to 80 millimetre mark. Again, the rainfall there doesn't pipe up until about Tuesday, so the heavy falls won't have as much time to accumulate up there, but still some good falls expected, and all round looking really healthy for the Queensland coastline. Even for locations further inland, Emerald expecting about 20 millimetres, Claremont about 20, Moranbah from thunderstorms, Dingo from thunderstorms, Billawheeler from thunderstorms, between about 30 and 50 millimetres of these locations. So the steady falls don't stop at the coastline. They will be a lot lighter as you get further inland, but still some decent rainfall is expected out there. And still on Queensland into the far north now, there is another tropical low that we've got to talk about. We've had a bunch off Western Australia, but this one here expected to form in the Gulf of Carpentaria over the coming couple of days. The meteorology is still giving this a 25% chance of tropical cyclone genesis, which I think is a bit crazy at this time, just considering this tropical low has literally zero forecast model support for becoming a tropical cyclone. So we will take a look at it nonetheless, because it is going to be just as interesting as a tropical cyclone would be. You can see through Wednesday and Thursday on the Eastern Weather forecast at least, and also between other forecast models, especially the Axis G3, we get a weak low pressure system developing offshore from Cooktown and Laura up into the far north of Queensland here. It is extremely remote Queensland that we're talking about, and as this low pressure system steadily develops, you can see it's going to develop plenty of rainfall, and all of this rainfall is going to get drawn and driven into shore from the Coral Sea for locations between Cairns down through Ingham, Cardwell, and then down towards Townsville and Bowen. And as such, throughout Thursday evening and Friday, and also in towards Saturday, there's going to be plenty of rainfall to talk about across the far north down towards the central Queensland coastline. Now, the saving grace that is preventing about 500 or 600 millimetres from coming through for this part of Queensland, which would be a truly disastrous thing to have on the forecast, especially in the lead up to Christmas, the true thing really saving the far north coast of Queensland at this time is just the amount of time that the system is going to spend offshore. Yes, the conditions are primed for this system to steadily intensify into a significant tropical low that could bring plenty of rainfall ashore and towards Queensland, but it's just not going to have enough time to do so. It's going to have about about 24 hours in premium conditions before those conditions really do weaken off, and it's got to go from a formative stage into a fully fledged and formed tropical low to really cause those disastrous rainfall accumulations, and it's simply not going to have that time to do that. It will still pack a real big punch wherever the tropical low centre of circulation does cross. You can see the GFS calling for it to be right in kind of, or nestled between Ingham and Townsville, and that would be a bit of a problematic solution here. That'd cause a lot of rainfall in that little pocket, which again, they've had plenty of rainfall. They're not really in need of anything at this time. The Axis G3 is still calling for this system to kind of just weakly meander around in the Coral Sea, and the Eastern BF, I think it's the most reliable forecast model at this time, just calling for it to slide along the Queensland coastline before being absorbed by all the moisture that's going to be occurring into the Coral Sea at the time, but still exacerbating those rainfall accumulations throughout Friday and Saturday into the far north of Queensland. So day by day, Wednesday not expecting anything too crazy along the far north of Queensland. Could be some decent thunderstorms into the Atherton tablelands, bringing some more much needed rainfall out there. Thursday, plenty of thunderstorms to go around on the Cape York Peninsula, especially inland out towards Georgetown, Hughenden and Charters Tower. Some good storms forecast out there. And as this tropical low materialises through Thursday and Friday, a couple of good drops of rainfall, some heavy showers possible into the Cassowary coast and also into the Daintree coast, and then showers and storms dominating the forecast Friday night into Saturday morning along the Cassowary coast and into the central Queensland coastline as well. In terms of rainfall, it looks like Saturday is going to be the wettest day. We could be seeing accumulations up towards 60 or 70 millimetres around the far north Cassowary coast as well, and those showers do continue through Saturday, Sunday and then into Monday. But again, the rainfall doesn't look like it's going to be especially heavy from this system here, and you can see 14-day or 7-day rainfall accumulations rather. Then nothing really stand out across the far north of Queensland. Like I said, Cardwell and Ingham, the runaway wettest places just with the rainfall that's going to be coming through on Friday and Saturday, up to about 150 millimetres there, and then on the mountains adjacent to the Cassowary coast, accumulations up to about 100 millimetres expected. This is definitely a conservative forecast in terms of rainfall, and we're going to have to play it by ear and see what this tropical low does to do over the next couple of days. There's still a real big scope of uncertainty in terms of what could actually happen with this tropical low at this time, but again, at this time it doesn't look like it's going to be too problematic in terms of rainfall. Now, I am very conscious that we've spent a quarter of an hour just talking about the Queensland weather forecast, so let's show some love across other parts of Australia. We do have a heat wave in the lead up towards Christmas that's expected to develop across interior parts of Australia. In fact, it's going to be really warm throughout the next couple of days across the interior parts of Australia. You can see Adelaide expecting a warm top of about 38 degrees today. Further inland out and towards Birdsville and Moomba, temperatures are expected to go up into the mid-40s, 44 or 45. Temperatures starting to warm up as well across parts of Western Australia in time for a heat wave that's expected to develop throughout the course of next week as well. But the places that are going to be stealing the show is, of course, South Australia and even towards New South Wales and Victoria. Tomorrow, Mildura expecting a top of 44 with temperatures up towards 44 or 45 expected over the northern parts of Victoria. Melbourne, a stinking hot 39 before a cool change comes through and provides some much needed relief tomorrow afternoon. Now, that is what I would consider dangerous heat for Melbourne. So if you are in Melbourne, make sure you are, or you do have access to air conditioning, because it is going to be very warm. So if you don't have air conditioning, or you're a little bit unsure about if your air conditioning is going to work, make sure you get yourself to a shopping centre for the heat of the day, or get yourself to a library or some public place that does have robust air conditioning, because 40 degrees in Melbourne, especially with the humidity that could come through later in the day with that cool change, that is going to be brutal indeed. And often when we see temperatures like that, we see a lot of people get seriously injured from the heat. It's going to start warming up as you get further in towards New South Wales and Queensland as well throughout Tuesday. You can see temperatures up into the mid-40s expected for Queensland. Same deal for Wednesday, temperatures into the early to mid-40s across parts of Queensland. Again, stock standard stuff for Queensland, the Northern Territory, and even in towards Western Australia for this time of the year. Looks like those temperatures are really going to warm up as well across the southwest of Western Australia throughout next week. Friday, a top of 36 for Perth, and then a warmer top of 37 expected on a Saturday as well, with temperatures expected to go up into the high 40s once again over parts of Western Australia outside of Gascoyne Junction and Mount Augustus, up to 46 or 47, so very warm indeed. And then those temperatures just going to keep warming up throughout the course of next week as well. You can see in the lead up to Christmas, the daytime maxima into the mid to high 40s pretty steadily across Western Australia. Christmas Eve for Perth, a top of 41. Looks like it will be a little bit cooler on Christmas Day for Perth, a top of 26, but it is going to be warm over in South Australia. Adelaide expecting a top into the 30s. Brisbane as well, top into the 30s, and some of the western suburbs of Sydney could get into the high 30s cities as well. So it looks like Christmas is going to be a hot one, especially across central parts of the nation, but the capital cities should just escape by with a little bit of a cooler day. So again, we will keep a very close eye on things, and I'll be releasing detailed Christmas weather forecasts from Wednesday the 18th of December onwards. Anyways, in terms of the temperature forecast, that basically cuts the mustard at this time. Any questions or comments, then please let me know in the comment section down below, and I'd be happy to respond to the concern. In terms of tropical stuff offshore from Western Australia and the Northern Territory, there's squat at this time, really nothing to be talking about. There's no tropical lows either on the forecast over the next week or so. And in terms of tropical thunderstorms as well across parts of WA and the Northern Territory, bar tonight and tomorrow night, there's not an awful lot expected until about Christmas time either. Looks like it could be a wet Christmas across parts of the Northern Territory, a couple of good thunderstorms expected Christmas night, and then a weak tropical low. It looks like it's going to start to spin offshore from Western Australia by about Christmas Day into Boxing Day as well. Again, it looks like a pretty uncertain forecast ahead for that system. We will need to keep a close eye on things. The GFS has been supporting something for the last couple of days, but I would take the GFS forecast with a pretty heavy pinch of salt. Sometimes it can spin up some pretty wacky stuff in the 14-day forecast period offshore of Western Australia. And when I say wacky stuff, I mean really powerful systems, or systems that are just, quite frankly, at this time of the year impossible. So we will take the GFS forecast model with a heavy pinch of salt. But in terms of the Australian weather forecast, I think that does it. If you have enjoyed this forecast update, or if you found it informative, then please do let me know in the comment section down below, and leave a like on the video if you haven't already. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Again, I could not run this show without them, and their support is also much appreciated. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Again, the support there has been much appreciated as well. But that is all from me today, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.